What's the most I'm turning into my parents moment for you? I've always had a little sass in me, and most of my life, my shyness covered that up. Now I'm a one-woman sassacre. Thanks, Mom. My brothers have been telling me for years that I'm essentially our mom, to the point of calling me Little Mother in an endearing way, not a Norman Bates way. I own it. My dad will fall asleep just about anywhere, especially if he sits in recliner. So after I got my first full-time job out of college, I got home and me and my roommate were gonna watch a new episode of some show. I fell asleep in our recliner in less than 10 minutes. I woke up after the show ended, and my roommate was like, "Yeah, you were out," and snored a little. When I went from "oh hey this restaurant has live music, cool," to "damn it, look at them setting up a drum kit. It's going to be too loud. I can't hear." Sometimes I will say certain words, and I'll turn around, because I thought my mom said something. It's really scary how me and her share 98% of seemingly random idiosyncrasies. We both talk to ourselves. Full on 45 conversations with ourselves. We both do this, counting this when some of the numbers turn breathy as we count. We both shake our heads and point our fingers the exact same way when we are yelling. Sometimes I'll stop mid-fight because I can see my mom making the exact same motions and it freaks me out. My 10-year-old nephew let me win a video game cause he felt bad for me, like I did to my dad 25 years ago on Super Nintendo. My so and I were packing and getting ready to road trip to some family's house for Thanksgiving. As I was cleaning up the house, my so said something along the lines of, "Don't worry about it, you can clean when we get home." I replied with, "I do not want to come home to a dirty house." At that point I realized I'm turning into my mother. My mom used to find things for us in a minute, after we had been looking for hours. My siblings and dad sometimes lose things and ask me to help because I always find it magically. I'm actually very excited about the mom touch to finding things. I started dating a mother of 4. She has the mom touch on so many levels, and I've for sure abused it. The other day I was on the phone with her and said I couldn't find my iPad. She told me to check under a box I just brought in from my car. She hadn't been over for a couple days, though I was on the phone when I got the box. But no clue how it works. My dad has away worked himself to death. Now has retired. When he comes over now, as soon as he sits down on a couch he falls asleep within minutes. I'm noticing couches are starting to have the same effect on me. Same for my dad. He says it's from his military days, when he had to sleep when he could get it. He will go days without sleep sometimes, since he also worked night shifts, so he gets home at like 6 AM, messes with the boat, then heads out fishing, until he has to go back to work. When he comes to my house he'll hit the couch and get 5 minutes into a movie before he's out. Sometimes he'll call me and be like, "I'm really liking this John Wick movie. I started it last week, I'm about halfway through." I don't think has sat fully through a movie in my life. As I stared into the mass of various saved rubber bands and twist ties. When I would get irrationally pissed off, when I would come home at night and see my roommate left a spoon in the sink instead of just washing it real quick. I started enjoying looking at grocery ads for discounts and have 3 discount cards. Finding myself excited to go to Lowe's. As a child I hated being dragged to that store. As an adult and new homeowner I totally get the appeal of buying power tools and gardening supplies to work on various home improvement projects. I repeat stories. Every time I go home to visit, I'll hear things from my dad that he's either told me by phone already or stories I've heard 100 times. I found that I have also started telling people about stories from my past that I've already told them. Convenient that I don't make up BS, or I'd have to remember all my BS. My dad was a fairly tall guy. I used to hate walking with him when I was about 4/5 because he'd take giant steps and I had to basically jog everywhere while he dragged my hand. My son is now 4 and I caught myself doing that exact thing about 2 months ago. Now I walk slower. I've always joked that my dad isn't really my father and I'm just a clone of my mom. I look like her, laugh like her, same mannerisms, etc. Then I got the exact same health issues that she has, at the exact same age they began for her. This is a fear of mine, since I look and talk and laugh like my mom. But she had a terminal illness and passed away. I can only hope not to repeat that. The good part is I say things sometimes, and they remind me of her so much, and that makes me happy. Easy. Walking around turning off light switches complaining about waste of electricity. Except now with 6 watt LED bulbs compared to the 100 watters from back in the day, it costs 1.7 cents as opposed to 29 cents to be left on for 24 hours at a 12-cent electricity cost. You want to save on electric, gotta reduce that vac motor from running at 500 watts via better insulation / windows, etc. Edit. Corrected wrong math on a 100 watt bulb. $0. 29 not $2. 88. The moment I saw a high school picture of me. Turns out it was my dad's high school picture. Identical to my father and it's annoying as can be. Same. I look just like my old man. Baby pics, childhood pics, all the way up to a picture my mom showed me of my 7th birthday party when he was my age now. But good news is, you know what you'll look like when you're older, and can plan accordingly. I went mushroom picking with my friend a couple of months ago. We ended up meeting my dad and granddad also mushroom picking. In Polish for clarification, and mushroom picking is like a national sport here. Edit. For you guys wondering, I mostly pick kirky chanterelles. So I'm at IHOP one day, already finished with breakfast, on my 2nd cup of coffee, and the waiter comes with the bill. As I pull out my debit card to pay it, I put my wallet away and think to myself, just let me sit here and enjoy my coffee. Which is a phrase that my mother has used so many times at breakfast that she could patent it. I'll admit it does feel nice to just relax and enjoy it instead of rushing out the door as soon as you're done. Now it's something I do routinely. Edit. Indeed, I realize I can pay the bill and not leave immediately. It's just this one moment I vividly recall not doing so. Also, I probably should have mentioned that the town I live in is pretty small and IHOP is usually quite dead most of the time. Otherwise I wouldn't take it upon myself to make people wait for a table while I'm just there sipping coffee. Over the course of college, I went from milk and sugar in my coffee to straight black with an espresso shot. I went from ketchup on a lot of things to simply salt and pepper. The sweet tooth turned into a salty / savory tooth. When me and my first girlfriend broke up, after telling myself I wasn't going to turn into my parents, we broke up because I did all the wrong things my parents do. I don't know if this will help, but I've been told don't focus on what you don't want to be, but focus on what you do. If you spend your time focusing on what you don't want to be, you'll eventually become it. I had a not great dad and this helps me focus on who I want to be, rather than staying in the negatives. Ate at an expensive restaurant, and for a secretary considered how much better and cheaper it would have been if I made the meal at home. I say the names of things I see while in the car, like, oh, a Burger King, and menu water. Interesting. My mom does this and it used to drive me nuts when I was younger. My husband actually types Google.com into the search bar, even though our default search engine is Google. It's a classic dad move. While driving in my car, I will put my arm out to protect the passenger if I suddenly stop, even though they are wearing a seatbelt. Just like my mom. As the passenger in the front seat, I will step on the brake, even though there is no pedal. The old fake brake, just like my mom does. Having children. The shoot that I've said has totally been shoot my mom used to say. As a middle-aged male, I'm turning into my mother, and it terrifies me. Example, I swear to God, if I have to go in your room to clean it, it's all going into a garbage bag and being donated to kids that will appreciate it. I found a picture of me as a kid with my dad. His Jimmy was in the background. I looked out to my driveway and saw my '99 Chevy Blazer and realized that I was driving pretty much the exact vehicle my dad drove when I was growing up. This wasn't a conscious choice. This is the second Blazer I have owned. I heard a loud noise and instantly got pissed off. My girlfriend told me she was cold when we were at home. She was wearing shorts and a tank top. I said, well, put some clothes on. My parents used to say the same thing to me and my sister when we were kids, so they wouldn't have to turn the heat up lol. My wife got a picture of me in shorts that didn't come to my knees, a white tee that I wore under my work shirt, doing dishes, with my headphones in, listening to a podcast. It was a wake-up call I needed. My boyfriend yelled, everyone in the car shut your mouth, when he got frustrated in a busy parking lot. It was just the two of us in the car and I wasn't talking. I was always annoyed my parents could never remember the names of the toys and other things I wanted. My mom especially would butcher the names, once calling G.I. Joe dolls. I now realize it's freaking hard to remember the names of all the shoot my kids want. Called an lol doll / collectible a freaking lolly doll at the checkout line. Cringed so hard. This is how I feel about the ages of all of my nieces and nephews. I used to get so offended when an aunt or uncle would ask what grade I was in, like OMG, I see you once a year. How could you not remember that I'm anything other than a third grader, as I'm defined by my existence as a third grader. Now I'm at holiday parties asking kids the same damn thing, and watching the look of pain and righteous indignation wash over their faces. When I started turning off the thermostat after my roommates leave it on. I had a roommate who escalated this to the point of me removing the thermostat from the wall. I was demolishing a wall in my house and decided to have a beer part way through. Upon taking down some part of it, I found an empty Corona in there from my dad 25 years ago when he put up the sheetrock. This happened yesterday. Background: my mom and her fam are New York Jews. I was on my couch, enjoying the first episode of The Marvelous Ms. Maisel, about a 1950s New York Jewish woman who becomes a stand-up comic. I immediately thought, oh wow, my mom would love this, so I texted her to tell her to watch. Her response: haha, already watching episode 1 right now, ugh. Parents were going on a boat trip. I sent them a text that said have fun, wear life jackets. Didn't even realize what had done until afterwards. It was admittedly right after that duck boat disaster, but still the most mom thing I've ever done. When I walked around my apartment turning off lights and muttering to myself about the electric bill, I was in the middle of yelling at my boyfriend about what was essentially nothing, when I realized that how I was shouting sounded like my father. I realized it inherited my father's anger, the way he bottled it in, the way he lashed out at the ones he loved. So much rage and so much unhealthy expression of it, so much inherent need for violence. Nowadays I'm trying to be more patient, I'm trying to walk away, count to 10, breathe, and I'm looking up kickboxing classes. I'm not ending up bitter, and lovable, and alone, and I will not hurt the people I love the way he did. I work in the same profession as my dad, and unknowingly got the same position he had 10 years ago at the same company he worked for. I go to bed at 8:30 and wake up at 4:30 and my first stop is turn on the coffee pot every single morning, even when I'm off, and all of this never dawned on me until my mother pointed it out when I was home for Christmas. Every time I try to explain something or correct something, I catch myself running around in circles repeating what I just said over and over. I always hated that when my dad did it, because it comes off like you don't believe the listener has enough capacity to understand you from the first time. When I realized that I was becoming a compassionate, sympathetic, caring and loving human being, and that I had my mom's influence to thank for all of it. Love you, Mom. I reloaded a dishwasher that my friend had load. I stood up and said, good damn it, I'm my father. This could have been avoided if he knew how to load a freaking dishwasher. All throughout my childhood my dad would stare off into the distance with a dumb smile on his face, completely removed from reality. After he would audibly laugh to absolutely nothing, I would say, what are you laughing at? You look like a crazy person. He would say, oh, I just thought about something. I thought this was the weirdest, craziest, most annoying thing in the world. Now other people catch me doing the exact same thing and think I'm the crazy person. Something apple tree. Complaining about fridge open, lights left on, etc. I'm probably worse than they were, because it bothers me not only on a waiting money standpoint, but also a killing the planet and wasting resources standpoint. You know those Chico commercials about turning into your parents? Once while redoing our backyard landscaping, I looked at my wife and said that's some good mulch. The tropes hold true. I was looking at Black Friday ads and I was the most excited by how cheap light bulbs were. It was a sad realization. The moment I realized I feel comfortable with having a mustache. Miss you, Dad. After my dad gave me lots of his old clothes, I was walking into a store wearing his pants, one of his shirts, and his jacket. I saw my reflection in the door walking up to the entrance of the store and realized how much I look and walk like my dad. The craziest part? I'm adopted, but my dad and I look so freaking much alike. At a bar with a friend of mine, and Doo Diddy comes on the jukebox. I looked at my friend and without thinking said, $20 if you can name who sings this. Then I stopped, horrified. It is exactly what my dad would say and do. The same cadence and tone. I ordered another drink and lamented what I was becoming. My grandmother has really bad anxiety about people's safety or if they are alive. Example, when I was young she would come into the bedrooms and make sure my younger brother and me were breathing. This happened my entire life if I stayed at her house. Example 2, she constantly worries about someone choking on food. If you are on the road and she knows it, she will call you 50 times to make sure you are okay. Example 3, I let my little brother outside to play on our porch once and she had to constantly remind me to not let him go to the river a mile away or he would drown and we wouldn't be able to find him. My mom has recently started acting like this as she has gotten older. Not quite to the extent of my grandma, but occasionally she will have a moment where she is really worried about something simple. Even more recently this sort of worrying has started hitting me. I noticed this a month ago when my half-sibling 5 years old laid down to go to bed. He wanted a snack so I went and grabbed something small for him to eat before bed. Before I left I told him that if he got choked and I wasn't able to hear him to come in and wake me up by hitting me if he had to. At first I played this off by justifying that he is 5 and kids tend to choke easily. You can never be too safe, but it dawned on me that this sort of thinking was high levels of worry, so I'm very much beginning to act like my elders. If I fall asleep while the TV is still on, I'll start grunting and nagging to whoever turned the TV off in an unconscious manner, like I don't even remember saying it. Why did you turn it off? I'm still listening exactly like my dad. Even worse, I'm a 19Y/er girl. When I realized how much I hate going out places with people, I've since started trying to find things I enjoy enough to want to go do. I don't get angry easily. Even annoyance takes a bit. When I do finally get pushed to the point of anger, I struggle to contain it. One day at work things got me boiling over. I seriously needed to go home so I could calm down, but had to stay to finish some stuff that someone else was supposed to have done. Part of why I got angry. As I was putting condiments away I dropped a Vinegar bottle. I picked it up and slammed it onto the shelf so hard that I shattered the really thick glass bottle and screamed fuck. BTW, I rarely cuss. It took everything I had to not throw things and completely lose control. That's when I realized that I was my mother. Thankfully I was able to keep relatively calm until my shift ended. Once the rage passed, I broke down crying. Being like that terrifies me. I'm extremely grateful that I was mostly able to keep control and didn't completely lose it like my mother. I now try even harder to not let myself get angry. When I notice that I'm stewing about something negative, I try to just let it go. Having actual conversations with other cars in traffic, not screaming or cursing, or completely freaking out, or losing my temper, but talking to the other people, as if they're sitting right next to me. Oh no, sure, feel free to pull right out in front of me, that's perfectly fine. And oh yeah sure, you can park there, the no parking sign applies to all the other cars, but you should be okay. It used to drive me absolutely insane, and I would always yell at my mom for doing it. I completely get it now. When I told my boyfriend not to use my good scissors to cut something. Cut to flashback of driving my mother nuts by swiping her scissors. Sorry mom, I get it now. My mom is well known for her relaxed time. Fluffy robe and slippers, sitting in one of those big armchairs, sipping wine and singing along to music. One day I found myself in a fluffy robe and slippers, sitting in a big armchair, sipping wine and singing along to music. I gently spazzed, throwing the robe off. So was confused, so I explained it. Then he pointed out like 1,000 other things I do like my mom. I gave in, put the robe back, and said frick it. Guessing my mom now. Could be worse.